Good evening and welcome to A Slice of Life. I'm your host, Jim Therian. This program, called A Slice of Life, is going to be exploring two main areas, both of which are environmentally themed. First, we're going to be exploring the activities and projects of the average homeowner that can be accomplished at any time with your tools in your home. Projects such as building a birdhouse, planting native shrubs and flowers, and even what can and cannot be recycled in your household trash. Second, we're going to be exploring the accomplishments and projects from noteworthy individuals, such as and what they've done in their working life and what they've done in their volunteer life. And we expect to be able to show that it's not that difficult to make a difference in the planet. Our guest tonight, Mr. Cryder, was actively involved in the saving of Plum Island, and he's here tonight to tell us his story. So Mr. Cryder, welcome to A Slice of Life. Please tell us your Plum Island story.
Okay, thank you for having me, James.
You're very welcome.
And so I worked for Save the Sound, which is based in New Haven. Our mission is to protect and improve the land, air, and water of Connecticut and New York and Long Island Sound.
Wow.
And I was the land campaign manager for Save the Sound over the past 6 years and worked for them for 14 years. I just retired 3 months ago.
Well, congratulations.
And now I'm taking the role of the Save the Sound ambassador.
Oh.
And so I'm here to tell that story. And so today I'm going to focus on our efforts to protect Plum Island. And maybe we should go to the first picture.
Okay, we're going to go to the first picture. It will be a high-level satellite picture. Okay.
As you can see on the screen here, Plum Island is located in the Eastern Sound, just about a mile off of the North Fork of Long Island. If you look at the top of this map, you'll see Essex, and as you go down the Connecticut River, you'll see Old Saybrook. And Plum Island is only 9 miles from Old Saybrook as the crow flies. It's part of an archipelago of islands, which includes Great Gull Island, Little Gull Island, Fisher's Island, and Napatree Point, and it was formed about 22,000 years ago when the last glacier was here.
Wow.
Let's go to the next shot. And so we're coming down out of our spaceship to Plum Island, and Plum Island is 840 acres. It's just about the size of Central Park.
Oh, wow.
And it is owned today by the federal government, operated by the Department of Homeland Security, and it is about 3 miles long, 9 miles of beach around it, and it is home to our nation's foreign animal disease center, the Plum Island Animal Disease Center.
Let's go to that. There we go.
So here is the Plum Island Animal Disease Center. And there's many people who think that the Plum Island Animal Disease Center is closed. It is fully operating today. 200 employees come from Old Saybrook by ferry to go to the Plum Island Animal Disease Center. Another 200 come from Orient on the North Fork of Long Island to work here.
Yeah.
And what they've been doing for the past 70 years have been studying foreign animal diseases that could negatively impact our food system, our livestock.
Right.
And they particularly investigate and do scientific investigation into foot and mouth disease, swine fever, and a host of other diseases.
Oh, wow.
And their job is to come up with ways to identify, prevent, and then also create vaccines for these types of
Wow.
diseases. If there was to be, let's say, an outbreak in the United States of foot and mouth disease, it would cause hundreds of billions of dollars of damage to our livestock. We haven't had an outbreak since the 1920s. You might remember in the early 2000s there was one in the UK, and they had to wipe out their entire
I do actually
beef,
remember
cattle,
that, yeah.
livestock. So they do a great job. These veterinarians, they also teach veterinarians from around the world
Wow.
at this site how to prevent these diseases in their countries. Because foot and mouth, for example, is endemic in many of the third world countries.
Oh.
So the story of Plum Island sort of starts with the Animal Disease Center because it is to close down shortly. Beginning even now, they're closing down.
Oh, wow.
And in 2023 and beyond, they're moving their operations to Manhattan, Kansas, to the new NBAF, the National Bio and Agro Defense Facility.
Oh, wow.
And so what happened 12 years ago, and Save the Sound was part of it, began its work to save Plum Island. Unfortunately, there was a law that was passed in 2008 in Washington, D.C., which said that Plum Island must be sold at auction to the highest bidder, the facility and its entire environs.
Wow.
And what the real injustice was there is that through that law, it completely circumvented the normal process of selling surplus government property. Normally what happens is an island like Plum Island would be first offered to federal agencies, let's say like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or to the National Park Service. Then it would go, if they didn't want it, it would go to the state of New York. And would they want to make it part of their park system or preserve system? If they didn't, then it would go to counties, municipalities, and then to non-governmental organizations and conservation organizations.
Right.
But because of this law back in 2008, it circumvented that entire normal process and started a process by which the plan was to sell the island to the highest bidder. And it would have most likely been a developer. Several developers have come forward saying they would love to put, for example, one developer to put 2 championship golf courses on that island.
Wow.
And condominiums. It could have gone to anybody in the world.
Right.
And so the real story about Plum Island, and it's connected to the Animal Disease Center, is that it's been operating as the Animal Disease Center now for 71 years about.
Yeah.
And because of the pathogens they study, there is high security on the island. And because of the high security, the public has not been on that island. And much of it has been untrammeled by human footprints. And so what has happened is that Plum Island has become a de facto wildlife refuge
Oh.
in this region.
Right.
And many people are unaware of that. It's very important ecologically, especially for birds. Over 220 species of birds are there. And that's a fourth of all the bird species in the United States.
Wow.
Behind the island on the south side, why don't we start going to some of the next slides, Jim?
Let's go to the next one. I think it's a kayakers. There we
Okay,
go.
all right.
There we go.
Well, my job with Save the Sound before I retired was to bring people together and to do outreach and public education and to build a coalition. And so we're really indebted to all the people who have come together to try to save Plum Island, not to have it be sold to the highest bidder.
Right.
And so today we have over 120 organizations Most of them are regional, but we have them around the country and worldwide who are working to fight to save Plum Island. And it's an interesting swath of organizations.
I agree with you there. In my studying Plum Island, I went to the coalition website and I scrolled down on all the interested parties, and I just kept scrolling and scrolling. There's easily 100 or more entities involved in this coalition.
There are.
Very impressive.
It's great. There are environmental organizations. There are maritime and historical organizations, because not only is it a de facto wildlife refuge, but it is home to some very important historical resources and possibly Native American places on the island as well. The group does include Native American organizations, legislators, scientists, fishermen are interested. They do not want to have as a backdrop, as they're fishing around Plum Island,
Right.
a condominium resort, a casino, and
Right,
2 championship
right.
golf courses.
Absolutely,
Part
yeah.
of the fishing experience they sell is having this wild background.
Right. Oh,
When you're on the island, you actually feel like you could be hundreds of miles away,
right.
up in the Arctic perhaps. It's just an amazing sight when you're on the island. So let's go back to
Kayakers?
this picture. Well,
Oh.
kayakers, they all got together
Yeah.
and did that great. There were 50 plus kayakers that came together
Wow.
and put that sign up. And of course, they want it to stay natural too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Here is a picture of the southern point
Yeah.
of Plum Island, called Pine Point.
Yep.
And we're looking at the dune system in particular here on Plum Island. There's about 100 acres of dunes. And within those dunes, there are some very important plant species, some of them endangered, that then are home to certain insects and animals that rely on that dune system
Right.
and those plants.
Right.
And so you can see an osprey pole there too. If you were really able to zoom in right at the point, you'd be able to see a security official there. But it's absolutely beautiful. And in the background is Gardiner's Island and the South Fork of Long Island. Let's go to the next slide.
All right, one more slide and then we'll go to break.
All right,
All
okay.
right.
So I mentioned birds before, that there's 220 species of birds.
Yes.
Every spring, along the Atlantic Flyway, of which Plum Island is a part of, birds come en masse. And it's a very important place where they can stop, recharge, refuel. And here is a freshwater lake right in the middle of Plum Island,
Wow.
where many of the species can drink, of course, refuel, stop. Waterfowl species that are freshwater as well as saltwater. And it's fed by a sole source underground aquifer.
Wow.
And that's it for this slide.
Let's take a break here,
All right, Jim.
and we'll be back in a minute.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
Only you can prevent wildfires.
but I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Okay, we're back. Welcome back. We're going to go back to our pictures.
All right, let's take the next slide.
Let's take the next slide. Wow,
All right.
that's pretty.
That is pretty. So you might want to bring your pictures here around. I don't
Alrighty.
know how this works here, but here is Plum Island, and it has this iconic pork chop shape. And out here, going to the east, is the neck of Plum Island. And the shot that you just saw on TV, I wonder if we could now go back to that shot that we just saw. Is that possible? Yeah.
There we go.
So we're looking at that neck of Plum Island going out to the east. It is interesting. Out here is where it's closely tied to Great Gull Island right next door, which is a very important tern and gull nesting place, roosting place. They will come over and fly over to Plum Island and take refuge, shelter, feed on Plum Island when they have had fledglings born on Great Gull Island that the American Natural History Museum manages today. Right. And so we're part of these islands connected in that archipelago, and we're looking at the neck here. Interestingly enough, during the last hurricane, Sandy, the waves crashed over this neck portion.
Wow. Yeah.
It is possible with sea level rise that we might have two islands, that very end of the neck and the main portion of the island.
Okay.
But this is very beautiful here.
Next picture, please.
Okay. So I've been talking a little bit about the environmental aspects of the island. Mm-hmm. There are also very important historical aspects, and this is a shot of the Plum Island Lighthouse, which overlooks Plum Gut. It was built in 1869. There was an earlier one that was built in the 1820s. And it is deteriorating. Fortunately, there has been about $1.5 million authorized through Congress to help restore part of, particularly the light part of the lighthouse. It does need much more restoration, but there's a vision that we would like to have it restored. Maybe, and the light is dark. There's a structure just a little bit to the north of the building that acts as the light today. But there are maritime societies, like the New London Maritime Society, that would like to see it fully restored. Maybe it be a bed and breakfast at some time.
Right.
Let's go to the next slide. Okay, back to environmental.
Back to environmental. Here we go.
On the south side of the island, there are large bluffs, and below there are rocks, intertidal rocks that have been there since the last glacier was there. And so not only is Plum Island important for birds, but for seals, gray seals and harbor seals, like this picture.
Yeah.
And they come in the winter mostly.
They look well fed.
They are, and that's important because the marine waters around Plum Island are full of mussels and fish and shellfish that are important for these seals.
Wow.
And so upwards of 600 harbor seals and gray seals can be seen in the wintertime. And there are, out of Montauk, tours that you can go on to see these seals.
Like cruising around the island, but not on?
Correct.
Okay.
Today you're not allowed on the island.
Right.
It's still not a public place. They did allow public tours a while back, but those have been closed down as they prepare for their move to Kansas.
Oh.
All right. And here's the bluffs behind those seals.
Right.
They are upwards of 70 feet high. And when you're standing up there, looking down with the waves crashing and seeing hundreds of seals beneath you, it's an amazing sight, especially here in this very populated area of New York City, Connecticut, and Long Island.
Right.
You feel like you are out in the middle of nature, away from population, a place where you can actually recharge and rest yourself and learn about the history.
And that would have been lost had you and Save the Sound not intervened and started the campaign.
Correct. I'll get back to that in a minute after these slides.
Okay.
That thing. All right, I think we have a few more. So here's another historical important piece of Plum Island, and that's Fort Terry. Fort Terry was built in the late 1800s, around 1897 it started, in and around the Spanish-American War. And it has a number of buildings are still there, as well as 11 artillery cannon areas around the island. There are also bunkers and tunnels under the island. Interestingly, bats were found without the white-nosed fungus syndrome that are plaguing bats on the mainland. But this is an important resource, and what makes it so unique is that because of the high security, there's not been vandalism, there's not been graffiti. Many of the buildings are in excellent shape, and Fort Terry was the kingpin of forts. There was a fort on Great Gull Island. There is a lighthouse on Little Gull Island. There was a fort on Fisher's Island, as well as Napatree Point. And these 4 forts helped to protect. They thought the Spanish Armada might have come in and hit Connecticut's defense industries in New York City. So there's a wonderful story here to tell, as well as the story of Native Americans who used this, as well as colonists before Fort Terry.
Wow.
All right. So we're back.
All right, we're back. Let's cut to what happens now.
All right. Let me.
I'm going to put this over here.
One quick backstory.
Okay.
And that is, there are a number of important organizations that made up the steering committee of the Plum Island Coalition, and we worked together. Save the Sound was in charge of the legal battle, doing public education and outreach like we're doing today, and doing communications about our effort. But over the last 12 years, the Preserve Plum Island Coalition, working with our federal legislators in Connecticut, Long Island, New York, Rhode Island, and around the country, were able to stop the sale of Plum Island to the highest bidder. We were able to repeal that law. And that was done just last December. That's fabulous. And it was a bipartisan effort. So now the normal process begins again, where it's offered to the federal government, then New York, then municipalities.
Is that where we are now?
That's where we are now. That's where we are now. So some people think, well, Plum Island's closed. Nope, it is still operating today, and the scientists are going out there. Some people heard about the law being repealed, and they think it is conserved. It is not conserved. So we have a window of opportunity here in the next few years to bring together the federal government, New York State, and private interests to conserve the island, and we want to reuse the Plum Island Animal Disease Center when it's closed. It is an excellent facility. It can be reused to become a number of different things. And so we are working with the state of New York and the federal government, and we have to have a shout out here to our own legislators. Congressman Courtney, DeLauro were essential, as well as Senators Murphy and Blumenthal in this effort. And then on Long Island, we had the champion where Plum Island is located in his district, Congressman Zeldin, and others on Long Island. We had Representative King. It was a bipartisan effort. Congressman Tom Suozzi and others all came together, and ultimately Chuck Schumer was able, in the final days in December, to get this repeal passed in the budget for 2021. And that's a whole nother story and a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show right there.
It's a whole nother show. So we're working hard, and my colleagues at Save the Sound, who are now taking up the challenge, Dave Anderson has replaced me, and my colleague Louise out on Plum Island, are working diligently on this plan. One thing I do want to say is that the Preserve Plum Island Coalition over the last 2 years put a vision forward, worked hard. It's called Envision Plum Island.
Oh, right.
And we would like to see 80% of the island become a conservation area and with public access to enjoy the special habitats. There may be some times when there's birds that are nesting, we won't get near them
Right.
in other sensitive areas, but the researchers can be on the island. We envision docent tours throughout the island. We also hope to see the ability to use the Plum Island Lighthouse and particular buildings and artillery areas to tell the naval and maritime history of this island, as well as the colonists and the Native Americans.
So we could say that the struggle for Plum Island is going in a positive direction, but it's not quite done yet.
That is right, so stay tuned.
All right, so Mr. Cryder, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I would like to also thank the two employees here at Valley Shore Communications, Mr. Chris Morgan and Miss Christy Kaminsky. Without these two individuals, this program simply would not have been able to happen. And as a parting, we'd like to thank Google Earth for their wonderful satellite imagery. And if you want any information on this Save the Plum Island process, you can go to savethesound.org.
Correct.
Okay, savethesound.org. And there's just a wealth of information there, and it's all out there to be discovered. And so thank you so
Can
much.
I give one other plug?
Yes.
The photos you saw today were from Saybrook photographer Robert Lorenz. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
those are special.
Yeah, he did a fabulous job. And he also provided me with this map here. So I thank you to Bob Lorenz. And once again, thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you for watching. And until next time, we'll see you later.